Hey, everybody, welcome back to the podcast. You're listening to the longest running superhero role playing game on Earth. I'm your host, the GM, and today we're talking about the new Supergirl. She first appeared in Superman Volume 2, issue number 16, in April of 1988. And my wife is actually a huge fan of the Matrix Supergirl. And we'll talk more about that in a future video. But before we get into things today, smash that like button, check to see if you're still subscribed, and as always, leave us a comment. It helps us out with the YouTube algorithm, but more importantly, we just love hearing from you guys. We've got an awesome community here, and it's all thanks to you. So thank you so much for being here. All that said, let's dive in. The prologue to this one begins with Luthor creating something called a protoplasmic matrix. It takes on human shape and is what we might now call a goo girl. We see them in anime sometimes where they're shaped like a cute girl, but instead of being made of flesh and blood, this particular goo girl is made of pink slime. Luthor gave her the powers of Superman, as well as a few more bells and whistles like telekinesis, invisibility, and shapeshifting. She uses that shapeshifting to take on the appearance of Supergirl. So, in this form, she has blonde hair and blue eyes. She heads out into the world, thanking Luthor, and she assumes that he is as pure as the driven snow. After she has left, Luthor makes note of exactly what it was that he did that made her creation a success. Which brings us to the main plot, which also takes place in 1988, but this time in New York. Supergirl now lives in Titan's Tower. She wakes up and says the word window out loud. When she does, one wall of her room becomes transparent, and she can now see the New York skyline in the distance. She decides to grab some breakfast for her fellow Titans. So she flies out the top of the tower and over the water in the bay to the shores of the Big Apple. Once there, she flies around buying everyone's favorite breakfast foods. Then she zips back to the tower in time for the morning meeting. By now, Starfire has quit the team and is raising a daughter named Mary Grayson. Raven is currently dead and won't be back for another 10 years or so. Robin was the name that Carrie Kelly went by, but recently she changed her name to Catgirl. She's still a member of the Titans, though. Beast Boy changed his name to Changeling when he turned 18, and thanks to his ability to become a Turritopsis dorni, which is a kind of immortal jellyfish, he's still young, despite the fact that he's been fighting crime since 1965. And despite 23 years of experience, he's still the least mature member of the team, which is why Cyborg is team leader now. After 10 years of this, Cyborg has given himself several upgrades. One change that he made is his silver armor covers almost all of his body now. Before, he showed more skin, partially so that when he looked in the mirror, he could see his own humanity. But now his armor is more heavy duty. Supergirl gives Cyborg a plate of waffles. He gives Beast Boy some tofu, and she gives Carrie Kelly a bagel from her favorite deli. Cyborg calls the morning meeting to order, and the Titans review yesterday's battle. Using CGI, Cyborg recreates the battle for them. Changeling says that's not what he did, and Cyborg replays actual video footage taken of the fight, recorded by micro cameras on Cyborg's body that act like a modern day police body cam. Getting back to the simulation, Cyborg shows them what they did and how it could have been better. He runs alternate simulations, and everyone talks about how they could do better if they did it again. Changeling likens this to playing the same video game level over and over and improving. He says everything's better after two or three tries. Just then, an alert sounds, and a new video appears on the computer's main screen. It's a group of supers in New York in a jewelry store. They rob the place, and when they walk out into the sunlight, it's the Titans, which of course is a shock to the Titans. Just then, police helicopters surround Titans Tower, and the cops order the Titans to come out with their hands up. So the Titans get in the T sub and leave the island under the water level. They wait until night, then make their move. Carrie Kelly subs her Omni gadgets for image inducers, like the ones that the X-Men use. So humorously, the Titans disguise themselves as Avengers. Cyborg disguises himself as Iron Man. Carrie Kelly disguises herself as Black Widow. Supergirl disguises herself as Carol Danvers. And Changeling disguises himself as Beast. The T-sub surfaces and the real Titans disembark to clear their name and figure out who these fake Titans actually are. Garf suggests they're androids from Murder World. Carrie Kelly says they might be Skrulls. Cyborg says anything is possible and they need to gather clues first. So they go to the jewelry store that was robbed, where they enter, and each Titan makes a roll of the dice using clue analysis, which is a sub-skill of the detective skill. Carrie Kelly was trained by Batman, and as such, has the highest detective skill. So to nobody's surprise, she finds weird footprints on the carpet. Garf turns into a bloodhound and sniffs it, and he says it smells like Supergirl, which shocks Supergirl. Cyborg analyzes it using the detect power, and sure enough, pink goo on the carpet is a 99% match for Supergirl's own protoplasmic matrix. In some role playing games, the game master gives the players a clue, and no matter what, they just don't put two and two together. Then there are times when you give them a clue and they correctly guess the entire rest of the adventure. This was one of those times. So the Titans figure out that Supergirl was not Luthor's first attempt. There had been many earlier tries, and those protoplasmic matrices have something wrong with them. Just then, a security guard stumbles upon them. Luckily, they are able to pass themselves off as the Avengers and say they're investigating the robbery. Instead of stopping them, the guard asks for for autographs. Cyborg signs a quick autograph pretending to be Iron Man, then says they can't stick around any longer. The guard wishes them luck and says that he assumes the real Titans were under mind control or something, which I thought was kind of a nice touch, that people in this world have been through so much at this point that they don't lose their faith in heroes willy-nilly. Instead, they think of all the times something like this has happened in the past. Anyway, so point being, Changeling uses analytical smell slash tracking scent to track the scent of the fake Titans. So this leads them to a pawn shop where the fake Titans sold the gems for money. From there, Garf tracks down their scent to a landfill slash junkyard. And since there is so much trash here, he loses the scent. We actually had him make a roll versus his willpower to see if he could keep trying, but he failed. And we likened that to being the smell version of trying to listen to somebody whispering while there's like a really loud sound that's hurting your ears. So, at any rate, the Titans search the landfill slash junkyard, and they find the spot where the fake Titans live. The fake Titans have made a small structure to live in, and the walls are 50-gallon drums from LexCorp. And if you've ever seen an old movie called Return of the Living Dead, you might see where this is going. So each one of these guys is a failed science experiment. LexCorp put their bodies in 50-gallon drums and just threw them away. Some survived, some didn't. And they are stealing the gems and selling them at pawn shops to get the money that they need to buy chemicals. And they're using the chemicals to try to stabilize their condition. But the protoplasmic beings are not scientists, and nothing they've done so far has helped. When the Titans get close, protoplasmic beings use their shape-shifting powers to blend in with the surrounding junk and trash. So the Titans didn't know they were surrounded. Then the camouflaged beings get a surprise attack bonus, and they attack the Titans. The one attacking Supergirl would normally need to roll an 11 or better to hit, since they have identical dexterity. They're basically the same make and model, if you want to use that terminology. But the camouflaged being is sick, so we gave her a 1 column shift penalty. So that meant she needed to roll a 13 or better to hit Supergirl. And when she rolled the dice, she failed. The other 3 Titans, though, all get hit. Carrie Kelly is the only one who gets knocked out from a single punch. And that's because she is, a mere mortal. She's only human. And it's basically another Supergirl that's punching her. So it was a 1-hit knockout. Changeling took a lot of damage, but he was still awake. So he turned into a housefly, blending in with all of the other flies in the dump. And Cyborg's upgraded armor that I mentioned earlier meant that he took no damage at all. The heroes have fight with their doppelgangers and win. And after the Goo Girls are defeated, Cyborg questions them, and they are all so incredibly close to dying that they just can't think straight anymore. They don't even want to lie. It's that they're having trouble remembering what the facts even are. As they melt one by one, the last doppelganger remembers why they disguised themselves as the Titans. She says that they knew that the real Titans would clear their names, and that process would lead them on kind of a trail of breadcrumbs to LexCorp. So the last doppelganger asks the Titans to avenge them, then melts away, running through the cracks of the junk that the heroes are standing on. And Supergirl mourns her older sisters. Which brings us to the epilogue. At one of LexCorp's many buildings in New York City, Lex oversees what looks like an assembly line. Tons and tons of protoplasmic Supergirls are created. So now Lex has an army. He sets aside a couple to be his bodyguards slash pleasure slaves, and they thank Luthor and assume he is as pure as the driven snow. And I think that's a good stopping point for today's tale. That was, of course, not the last time we saw Lex Luthor, and it certainly wasn't the last time that we saw the Supergirls. But like I so often say, I think that's a story for another day. It's further down our timeline when some karma finally hits Lex, but it is coming. This story was well received by my gaming group. So even though it was tragic, we enjoyed playing it. As always, we hope that you enjoyed hearing about it. If so, we'd love it if you took a second to hit that like button. Check to make sure you're still subscribed because YouTube does love to unsubscribe people and not tell them. And last but not least, leave us a comment. Maybe you've played role-playing games with the 90s Supergirl. I mean, obviously, this is the late 80s, but I think that's what she's best known for is her appearances in the 90s. Or maybe you enjoyed reading about her, or, maybe you prefer Kara Zor-El. I actually fall into that boat. I'm a big fan of Kara. My wife is a big fan of Linda. But, that's cool. That gives us something to talk about. It'd be boring if we all totally 100% agreed on everything. At any rate, so from everyone here at the longest running superhero role playing game on earth, we hope you guys have a good one, and we'll see you in the next adventure. Bye.